everyone, today you will hear an interesting story. The village was famous for its rich and fertile fields, hardworking people, and modern technology. For example, agronomists used long-range drones for greater productivity. Doctors in the local hospital used the latest equipment, and the local bakery and school were the envy of people from the capital itself. Not so long ago, a married couple settled in the village. Anton and Pauline Bensky. Pauline has just finished her internship in the regional center, which is situated 15 kilometers from the village, and has been sent here by her superiors to the local hospital. Anton worked here all the time. Though, while his wife was studying for an internship, he lived with her in a small rented flat and commuted to work and back by train. Luckily, commuter trains on the local line run frequently, even at night. And now at last happiness happened. He could move out of the rented flat and settle down in the village. Anton rejoiced, and his house is not the biggest, but it is not small either. It is one-story brick with a pointed roof. There are all conveniences inside. And Venskis began to live and get on well. To tell the truth, it was not a life together. Everyone had a difficult job. Anton was absent in the fields day and night, controlled various processes using a drone, revealed problems, and sent people for help in case. Pauline spent all her time in the hospital. Life went on as usual, and firstly no one paid any attention to Pauline when a history teacher from the local school started visiting her. His name was Victor, and he had a problem with his left arm which could hardly move. Anton didn't think much of it either. So he walks, and that's okay, he decided. Besides, Pauline had quite a few people like that. This all went on for about 6 months. One day Anton was on his way home from work, and while walking past the school, he heard a conversation between two students. One was talking. It's been a day now that our history class has been canceled. Anton stopped. He listened. "But what do you care?" asked the other one. "Be glad you can get some rest." Ensue, "Yeah, but Mr. Zoom gives too much homework after that. We have to sit with it until midnight." "Well, Mr. Zoom's arm hurts, so he goes to the hospital. I heard there's a new addition to the staff at the hospital, a pretty new lady." The boy looked at him with a half smile. "Do you want to tell me that Zoom just visits her?" The other boy shrugged his shoulders. "Who knows? Perhaps." Then both schoolchildren noticed Anton, embarrassed, and moved hurriedly down the street. Anton also felt uncomfortable overhearing a conversation between two high school students, but he could not help overhearing. It was about his wife. Anton returned home. Pauline, as usual, was not there. She came back quite late that day. "Sorry, I got caught up at work." Who's Zoom? Anton immediately asked. His wife seemed a little frightened and asked a counter question. "How do you know the school children?" Rejoiced that they would once again have no history lesson as their history teacher, a certain Mr. Zoom, had to go to the hospital, and one of the lads also said that he had heard of a new addition to the medical team, and this new addition is a pretty lady. Anton's wife smiled. She was pleased with such a compliment, even if unknowingly, so Anton continued. "These pupils think that the teacher comes to you for a reason. Here's my patient, and he has problems with his arm, and the treatment should not be stopped. And he walks at this time as the next hours are busy with your colleagues." One jumped out of the combine unsuccessfully and broke his leg. Another lifted something heavy and broke his back. The third lost his fingers when the electric saw prepared the construction for scaffolding, so Zoom has to cancel the last lessons at the school. And those students are just lucky since the procedures fall on their class. What those students meant was that Zoom doesn't just come to you for treatments. Honey, Pauline smiled again. "I don't really care what the local school children think. It's none of their damn business. By the way, you should also know that teenage thoughts aren't always right. Sometimes teenagers know more than we adults. Don't listen to those teenagers." Anton did not argue, and indeed, you never know what teenagers say. Once again, they went on living as if nothing had happened. 3 months passed. Pauline continued to work late, and sometimes even overnight. Anton often worked nights as well. Alas, each of them has a profession that requires attention around the clock. One day at sunset, Anton was walking along a dirt road with his elderly colleague, Mr. Pashenko. They were talking about the future harvest. It was mid-July. A field of tall sunflowers stretched along the road on both sides. Anton was carrying a drone in his left hand and a suitcase with a remote control in his right. At that moment, a middle-aged dame who Anton recognized as a dairy farmer came out of the bend. "Good evening." Vera said Anton good evening. Brashenko repeated after him hello gentlemen. Vera answered and smiled slightly. Anton, may I see you for a moment? Wait here. Mr. Brashenko, Anton asked and walked over to the farm worker. Look, Anton, the woman spoke in a low voice. I saw your Pauline go into the sunflowers today. She stopped talking and looked at Anton a little guilty in what Anton asked, and she didn't go in alone. She went in with a man theme. So I think I've seen him many times at her appointments. Yeah, right. Right. This guy's got a problem with his arm. It doesn't move very well. Anton jerked his head, looked at Vera's face, and asked, isn't he a local school history teacher by any chance? Because the boys there were cheering, saying that their history class had been canceled once again. It looks like. Vera thought about it. Yes, that's right. At the history teacher. My grandson also said that their history classes were often canceled, and that he had to do a lot of homework at home. And there's only one history teacher in the school. I'll check it out. Anton put the drone on the chassis, opened the suitcase, prepared the control panel, and started the equipment. Soon the drone flew into the semi-dark sky. From above, the ground now seemed black with barely discernible greenery. Nevertheless, the drone's camera was still able to capture 2 naked human bodies on the ground among the sunflowers. And these bodies were engaged in a familiar activity. The drone is a rather loud technique, so the bodies immediately interrupted their activity and raised their heads. At that moment, the drone camera captured Pauline's face. Yes, it was Pauline, in spite of the dim light. Anton recognized her. And next to her sat a gaunt man with a puffy mustache. He hastily put on his rectangular glasses. Anton lowered the drone to get a better look at his wife and her lover. The man at this time found a large lump of earth and swung at the drone. Anton lifted the machine sharply into the air and drove it towards him. What Pauline and Zoom did next is anyone's guess. Anton landed the drone, hid the remote control in his suitcase, and said, thank you. It's good luck to you. And the woman walked on. At that moment, Brashenko approached Anton and asked, what happened? Nothing much. Listen, can I borrow the memory card with this recording? Borrow it, of course, but I want it back tomorrow. Sure. I'll just copy the video to my computer. That's all. Then no problem. Anton quickly unplugged the drone and took out the memory card. He tucked the flash drive into his breast pocket and said, let's move on. Let's go, Brashenko responded. Anton could not find his wife at home. Of course, he thought. Pauline must be having fun with her Zoom. Maybe she's not, though. Anton imagined with pleasure the embarrassment that both the history teacher and Pauline had felt the moment they'd met the drone. There was certainly no time for further amusement there. Anton rushed to copy the video from the memory card to the computer, took the card itself to the agricultural company he worked for. He did not want to wait till tomorrow and returned home. By this time, his wife had also returned home, depressed and in no mood at all. Anton realized the fun had failed because you shouldn't go out with other men, he thought, and he asked her expressionlessly, hi, how was your day? So I was late with a patient again, and he turned out to be a jerk. Inspiration? Anton turned on the drone video on his computer. Pauline was numb with surprise and shame, and meek. So that's, yes. Pauline, that was my drone. Anton grinned slyly. Sure, rather, not mine, but our company's. I'm just an operator, that's all. But, so this is your patient, That's quite a treatment you've come up with for him. I didn't know that kind of exercise helped with hand problems. It doesn't matter what you are. What matters is that the teenagers at the school were right. Zim didn't go to you just for the treatment. Anton Pauline shouted. What? He asked and laughed. He just imagined this situation from the outside. 2 people making out without clothes among the sunflowers, she and her lover, and then her husband's drone flies in and captures it all on video. And it's not so much the wife as the lover that's embarrassed. Why are you laughing? Pauline barked hysterically. Anton instantly became serious and said harshly, go now to your Zoom. That your spirit was not here? And she went still depressed and ashamed. Of course, Zoom was in a bad mood. What do you want? He asked angrily. I want to be with you after what happened today, barked Zoom. So forgive me. Today I invited you to come here, and what did you say? Let's go to the field. Next step the ECC. There's more romance. I told you, there's service drones flying over the fields. And you. What about me? You said they rarely fly. But they really don't fly much. They only fly when there's something wrong with the earthworks, and they also do patrolling. Patrolling, Zoom jumped up. Jefferson, I did not know that. My husband is an agronomist. He has told me about. He says they are the most reliable patrols. They can see everything day and night. God, what a shame. Zoom sat down on a ramshackle wooden chair. It creaked. Heaven forbid my fiancé should know. Your fiancé? Pauline was furious. A new thing. Yes, she is working abroad, while I am here to look after the house and teach young children. And I thought you were a good man, Pauline shouted. And yet you're married. Look, if my fiancé finds out about this, I'm screwed. And then I'll do things to you that you can't even imagine. To you that you can't even imagine. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. You better hope that drone video doesn't end up in the public domain. Otherwise, I'll make you regret it. Now get the hell out of here. She left, but not for home, for a field of sunflowers. It was night now, an impenetrable darkness all around. Pauline stepped off the road into the sunflower thicket, sat down on the ground, and burst into tears. She did not know where to go now. Her husband would not forgive her. Her lover would not forgive her. She bellowed until she heard the sound of a drone in the sky. It was probably on patrol. Finally, the running lights of the drone appeared above Pauline. The drone descended lower, fixed her face, and continued on its way. Pauline had no energy to react in any way. She continued to sit and wait for the guards, who must already be on their way to the scene. Anton was lying on his sofa watching television. At that moment, the telephone rang. Come out, Anton answered. Good evening. This is the head of security for your company. Anton felt cold inside, but he said calmly, has something happened? Our patrol drone picked up a woman in the field who looks like your wife. I'm not surprised. So it really is your wife. It can be. Don't worry, she won't do anything to the crop. You'd better take her, or there might be trouble. To me, to how funst. All right, Mr. Head of Security. Goodbye. Anton knew he wasn't going anywhere. His wife's problems no one bothered him. Still, for the umpteenth time that day, he felt a certain pleasure in what was going on with Paulina. His wife turned up in the wee hours of the morning, still glowering and depressed. Anton woke up, turned on the light, asked offhandedly, "What did he kick you out?" "Yes, he kicked me out," replied his wife. And she cried again. "Forgive me. I'm sorry that was the first and the last time you're always at work. And I'm young. I'm 27 years old. I need attention, and that's when Zoom started coming to me. He turned out to be a good man at first, so I gave in to his advances, and now we find out he was cheating on his fiancée. I'm sorry, we only slept together once, when you caught us with your drones. Get in the kitchen and I'll think about it." And he thought long and hard, but not about how to forgive his wife. He was thinking about revenge. So, Zoom, you have a fiancée too. Anton pondered, reading the news. And you cheated on her. Well, it won't go in vain for you either. Finally, a few days later, Anton went to the village council and, without hope of a successful outcome, asked for Zoom's fiancé contact details. Strangely enough, such a banal and simple move helped. At Joel City, no, Anton was not going to send her a direct video of Zoom cheating on her. No, that would have been too easy. The elderly secretary at the village council smiled, nodded, and gave Olga Baikina's phone number. That was the name of Zoom's fiancé. "Thank you," said Anton, and went home. The further, the more he realized that the whole village knew about Pauline's infidelity with Zoom. Not to say that it annoyed Anton much, but still he felt something unpleasant. So he decided soon there would be a festival of the village, and Anton would demonstrate that video shot from a drone. But first he took his phone, opened Messenger, and texted Baikina. "Good afternoon. An employee of an agricultural company is writing to you." He pointed out the name of company. "You are officially invited to the annual carnival to be held in our village." And good afternoon. Baikina wrote back, "All right, I'll come. The carnival is in a month, as I recall." "Yes, that's right, come." And she came. It was a pleasant surprise for Zoom, but still he felt a kind of awkwardness and even fear. He knew that the betrayal of his bride would not go in vain. "Darling, shall we go to a party together?" asked Baikina. Yes, of course." Zoom smiled nervously. "We'll go for sure." He seemed to have a hunch, a premonition, and he was afraid to say about it. He lived with this premonition until the festival. During this time, Anton and Pauline lived as if they didn't exist for each other. They did not quarrel, but they did not communicate peacefully either. Anton knew what was coming next, and he showed it all at the festival. His agricultural company had prepared several videos about the life of the enterprise, the work of the drones, and in general, the existence of the village. Anton replaced one of these videos with a video of his wife cheating on him with Zoom. It wasn't hard to do. The computer used to launch all the videos was often unattended, and Anton was easily able to pull off his plan. He moved the original video to another folder and inserted the cheating video instead, and gave it the name of the original file. The original video was just about drone work. Evening came. It got dark and the lights in the main square of the village went out. The presenter came on stage and announced with a loud voice, "And now our agricultural company will show you 3 videos." Anton was with the rest of the audience at this time. His wife was standing nearby, but they were not talking to each other. Ensue and Baikina were also hanging around somewhere near buried. Surprisingly, after the announcement of the video, as Zoom and Pauline froze, nervously wringing their hands and averting their eyes from the huge screen. The first 2 videos were about life in the village, nothing special. But in the third video, the villagers actually saw the drones at work, or rather how the drone captured on video 2 unclothed people in sunflowers. And in the next moment, people immediately recognized local history teacher Victor Zoom and Anton Vensky's wife. The square exploded with laughter. Zoom and Pauline jumped out of the crowd in a flash, and Anton, no, he wasn't laughing, but he sensed victory. What Zoom's fiancé arranged for Zoom is anyone's guess. Perhaps Victor didn't spend the night at home at all. Neither did Pauline. Again, a patrol drone captured her at night. But this time, the chief of security did not bother Anton. He knew it had happened the previous evening, although he himself hadn't been present at the village festival. The next day, Zoom beat Pauline half to death and immediately fled by his old ramshackle car. Pauline did not press charges. She and Anton finalized the divorce, and then the ex-wife moved to another village. No one knows what happened to her in the future. Traces of this story are lost as soon as Pauline has left the village. As for Anton, he happily married Baikina, and their lives began to improve. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our content.